Hello, everybody. Welcome to Base Live. I am Liz Prue, VP of Marketing here at Base. We'll give you all just a couple of minutes to sign on. While you're doing that, I'll do a quick hello and intro to Jacqueline, our guest. Hello, Jacqueline.
Hey guys,
How you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. Trying to stay warm up here in Michigan, but I'm doing great.
Same here. In Indianapolis, it's like 15 degrees. And of course, my office space is the coldest room in the house. So I
Right.
have a blanket under here, probably like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But for those of you that do not know Jacqueline, she is an operations manager, client experience specialist, and podcast host. She's a mother of 4 and virtual executive assistant. And furthering her superhero status, she's also homeschooled for the past 10 years and was the director and leader of a classical homeschool community. Her passion lies in seeking fulfillment in both your personal and professional life. And as an entrepreneur and homeschooling mother of 4, she's been able to prioritize what matters most, which is why I am so excited as a mother of 2 to dig in and chat with you a little bit more about that. And for those of you that don't know Jacqueline from our Empower 2020 Summit or any of her other amazing ventures, I'm so excited for you to get to know her today.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. So I would love, we've had so many questions sent in about motherhood, trying to prioritize yourself while also not feeling that oh so familiar mom guilt. But I'd love to start with what drives you and how you got started with being a virtual assistant and what led you on that path.
Yeah, what led me on the path, honestly, was just, we'll say providence. But I was, homeschooling my kids and running this homeschool group. And a friend of mine, her husband, has an online business and it was growing and he needed some extra help. And I guess maybe I showed some great administrative skills or something like that. And he's like, I really think you'd be good at this. And that's how I got started. And really, it was just a little side thing. I don't know, like an hour or two a day. I would, not even 2 hours. It was just, I would check in, make sure things were taken care of. And because I was pretty efficient with it, it only, I guess, took me about an hour, whereas for him, it distracted him from his work and stuff like that. That's how I got started. And one day he asked me to do something and it sounded like a foreign language. I was like, what is a what? Because if you're not in the online space all the time, there are certain, I guess, jargon that people use that's common if you're always there. But if it's not your main place, it's just foreign. So I Googled it and I figured out how to do what he asked me to do because he seemed really busy and I didn't want to interrupt him. So I looked it up, I figured out and I did it. And something that I was searching caused like an ad to come up that says like, are you a virtual assistant or something like that or whatever. And that's how the official journey started. I was like, wait a minute, this is a thing, like what I'm doing. So that's how I really, got started into it. And then after that, I started getting my own clients and making connections and stuff like that. Now, what drove me to really make it bigger than just a little a side hustle, I guess, is that it helps stretch our income. Because when I was homeschooling, so we were one income family and we have 4 children. And at some point they start to eat more and they want to do more activities. And, I was cooking from scratch. I was couponing. I was buying things on sale. But at some point, you just need more money, right? And so I was just like, all right, well, let's make more money. And so my driving force initially was just being able to put food on the table. Then it was being able to afford sports. Then it was being able to pay off debt, And so it's just been every couple of years, I think I have a new why. But so I hope that answers the question.
No, that does. And I think that's so important to point out how, yes, you get started in it for, why you start any job really, to provide for your family. But what I think is so awesome about your story is that you have found fulfillment within that too. And when you have, and we've all been there where it's like, I know, I've had like side hustles and I was actually consulting for Base before I came on. full time. And do you find that with the side hustle, because when you start to enjoy it, you end up spending more time on it than you initially intended, and then you start to question, like, was this
What
the
am I
whole point?
doing?
Yeah, like, why am I doing this? Like, do you
Yeah.
struggle with that still, or?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like initially it's like well, maybe not initially. Initially, it was just putting food on the table. But at
Mhm.
some point, it was like, this is great. I can make full-time income and still be homeschooling and be present with my children and get to do things with them and all of that. But you're right. I can get sucked into Canva. I love designing things. I get
Mm.
sucked into learning a whole new platform just because I like to like learn new things. And next thing you know, it's like, wow, this is going into dinner time. And it's
Mhm.
kind of a good thing, but it still needs to be reined in. So yeah, I struggle. And so then I have to, you know, become the boss of myself and be like, these are the times we're gonna do this. This
Right.
is the day, you know. So yeah, it's tempting because I love it. I love what I do. It's
Mhm.
fun. Yeah.
That's amazing. Do you find that I think we're still in the beginning of the year where we're focusing on goals and what our focus is, and I think this year is a little different for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, for me, it's okay. Let's just try and get through this year. let's
Yeah.
be a little bit more hopeful. But I still wanted to put my personal and professional goals out. Do those change for you every year as it pertains to your business, depending on what's happening with your family, or do you have like, okay, here's my 3 to 5 year plan with my business?
Yeah. I think, and this might not be like the fanciest answer, but honestly, the business goals don't shift very much. It's just we add a component, right? Because my philosophy is keep it simple. If it's
Mm-hmm.
working, keep it simple, keep it moving forward, and you can just add, you know, one more thing. So I call it easy plus one, right? So the business is working, it's moving forward, it's doing what I need it to do. And last year I was like, well, I kind of want to do a podcast, so I added a podcast, and so then with a podcast, I have to you start over with I need to be disciplined, I need to be consistent, I need to be, you know, you do all of those things. And then once you've mastered that and everything is still simple, it's still going, you're still on track, then you add one. So the goals of being consistent, being disciplined, being present, those aren't going to change. I think what changes new year to year is if I've conquered, let's say, the previous year's plus one, then I'll add another plus one or whatever. But no major shifts, you know, that I can tell. I think the major shift is when I look back 5 years ago, who I was to who I
Mm-hmm.
am now. Then I'm like, oh, that's a totally different person, or we're doing a whole different operation. But it was a slow change. It was very gradual, like 1%, 1%, 1%, and then
Mm-hmm.
now we're here. But I can't say that it's really big and different each year.
I think that's so important to note, though, because what I think you've done so well is learn how to scale yourself and then automate what, like, there's always going to be that, okay, I'm doing something new. I'm going to have to give myself more time, or I have to know it's going to take, I mean, in my experience, it always takes 10 times longer than like the
Yeah,
extra time that
that's
I've
exactly
put
right.
into
That's
it.
exactly right.
Is there, and a lot of folks have asked this too. And guys, you can ask questions. I forgot to say this in the beginning. You can ask questions throughout the chat as well. We'll get to Q&A at the end. But feel free to drop them in the chat while we're chatting as well. And if it doesn't come up in conversation, I'll note it for Q&A. But do you find, are you constantly on the search for new technologies? You mentioned Canva, which I also love. But I found that, yeah, I always try to automate as much as I can if I'm doing something new.
Yeah, I try to automate as much as I can, and I'm not going to say I'm on the hunt for new technology, but typically what happens is there's one piece of technology that's I'm using it, but it's maybe not, it doesn't feel fluid with me. And so it's kind of like always on my mind, like nagging me. And then if I hear somebody say, oh, are you using X? Y just works just like X, but easier or better. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to go jump over there and see what they're doing. So I think that's more so me. I don't and I think any one software, if you really dig deep, there's always something new to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to not, I think as an assistant, you're kind of a jack of all trades, but I try to master a few. I
Mm-hmm.
try not to be surface level at a bunch of stuff. I'd like to be able to say, okay, this thing, I'm really good at it, or, you know,
Well, it helps
so.
you focus your specialization too, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
How do you with the work that you want to take on, plus your family and homeschooling and all of that, how do you set expectations with your clients in terms of your time? I assume you would be very protective of that and make sure that's laid out.
Yeah, I am. And I think for me, it's even before we sign a contract, I have to determine, um, just be principled in the fact, like, what do they need from me? And is that what I'm willing to do? The type of client where I'm essentially on call 24 hours a day because anything could happen. I think if I had a different lifestyle, I could do that because it doesn't stress me out. But considering where I am, I wouldn't take a client like that, and so
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have to have a conversation of. I mean, we have to have an expectations conversation, but the time boundary isn't really going to be an issue because before we even take a step forward, I already know, like, I can't meet that expectation,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't want to set myself up to have to meet that
Right.
expectation. Yeah. And so my clients, typically, a lot of them are, the bulk of their business is online, and the bulk of the things they need me to support them in, um, we can schedule in advance, or we can just send a quick notification on Slack. It's never anything that's very real time, like daily meetings. Um, I'm just trying to think of people who maybe have like a different kind of executive they support,
Mm-hmm.
but like my clients, the daily meetings we have are reoccurring, for example. So every Wednesday, every Thursday at this time, we have this meeting. And so that's already blocked out. I'm there and I'm present, but we don't have anything spontaneous that would come up. And then even when we had live events before COVID, it was typically a live event that was happening for a week or something like that. And so I was fully present on site for that week, but it wasn't ongoing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of clients I tend to support. And so in our early meetings, before any contracts are signed, any money is sent, I always make it clear these are my parameters that I like to work in. Um, I'm flexible for big launches and events. I'm totally flexible. Those are so fun. But day to day, I have, boundaries. And if we're a really good fit, I've got clients I've worked for years, and they need more from me. Sometimes we'll work out like, hey, for this quarter, you know, more will be required. Therefore, the package they're paying for is a little bit bigger as well. And then I adjust my family life accordingly. So it's
You're still in
constant.
control though of
Absolutely.
yeah.
Because the way I'm set up, I'm not anyone's employee.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Right.
that makes a big difference. Because if you're an employee working remotely, they do tell you what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, right? So,
Mm-hmm. But I think that advice is still can still be applied with our community members that we're in office, we're an employee at an organization.
mm-hmm.
Setting expectations. I think with all the uncertainty of the last year, it was just kind of like, let's figure
Ah,
this out,
yeah.
But it also presents opportunity to say, well, hold on a minute, like this is what's working for me. Like I have friends who live in a different state and their schools are open, they're rocking and rolling, they're doing all the things. And in Indiana, where we are, it's not like that. Not everything's open. And so more people
Yeah.
have to be at home with their kids. So I think, but it's hard to speak. I can see where it'd be hard to speak up and say, well, that may work for this person, but that doesn't work for me. I still have my kids
Yeah.
at home or whatever.
Yeah. Now, I have a friend who she's an employee. and working room. Well, she worked in office even before COVID, but she needed more time home because she had just had a baby, and maternity leave, I think, was over, but she still felt like she needed more time. So what she did is she asked them to give her 2 weeks to show them that she's as efficient or more efficient if she only comes into the office. I think she said 2 days a week, half days or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and the rest of the time she worked from home, and they found that she was more efficient. And so they ended up working out a deal. It wasn't, the final deal wasn't half days, 2 days a week. I think it was 2 full days in the office. And then the
Mm-hmm.
other 3 days of the week she could be home, which that's still a win, really.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and she didn't get a pay cut or anything like that. It was just because at the end of the day, if the purpose is to get the job done,
Mm-hmm.
I, I don't know. It's like, I think people are realizing, does it really matter where you are? As long as you're getting it done with integrity. And I understand there's things like documents that are sensitive and you have to keep it in one building. That's,
Mm-hmm.
different. But so there's ways around it, I think. Like you
Do you
said, to have the conversation about like time and what you need and make it work.
Absolutely. Do you think with our quote unquote new normal, even as things start to open back up, per your comments, a remote world is becoming a permanent thing. We've had to make it work, and for the
Yeah.
most part, we've made it work. And so I always think, okay, what's like the long-term effect of this? And the
Yeah.
first thing that comes to mind is communication and how we all
Yeah.
communicate. Whether
Yeah.
it's if we're texting, if we're slacking, emailing, I feel like new expectations and parameters have to be set because it's hard to shut down
Yep.
because you're at home. So you never know when you should or shouldn't be working. Like for me, I'll
Yeah.
think, wait, I spent 25 minutes switching my laundry out. And then subconsciously, I'm like, that means I need to spend 40 extra minutes working tonight. And it's like, no, I do
No,
not.
not really.
So have you found that with specific tools you use, whether it's Slack or email, that you've put like new, do you use them differently now that with your clients in this remote world?
Yeah, that's kind of, I think I've always been remote. And so I don't have a frame of reference for a different
Hmm.
way. But I will say, like, I have to catch myself because I tend to, well, I'm just sitting here, I'm just responding to the Slack really quick, and it's just like, but
Hmm.
you're setting up a culture or an expectation that you're going to always really quick respond at 9 o'clock at night or whatever. So I've kind of fallen into that a little bit. And so what I've done is I have my phone, how you can set your phone to like not send you notifications before a certain time of the day
Hmm.
and then to stop. So I've done that. And so it reduces the temptation to feel like I'm delivering above and beyond by
Right.
responding, like, uh, so I've done that to kind of help a little bit. And back to the topic of, I was saying earlier, the business, it's just always consistency, discipline, and so on. And so
Hmm.
that kind of goes back to the discipline issue. I recognize that, okay, if I'm waking up at 5, it's not to be doing client work. I'm waking up at 5 to fill my soul and to
Right.
encourage myself and to exercise and to,
Hmm.
and so for me to respond to a Voxer or a Slack message or an email at 5:30, I'm not being disciplined. Although I make
Hmm.
myself think I am because, I'm working and I'm over delivering. But no, that time was assigned to personal restoration to fill myself up, and that's lacking discipline when I deviate. And so it's kind of these little things I have to do with myself all the time.
That is, I'm totally stealing that and being disciplined with your personal time too. Like we never do
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
that's the last thing we prioritize usually.
Yeah.
So what are those personal things, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah.
What are things that you've decided, okay, this is what I need to do to stay grounded and not be on my laptop 24/7?
Yeah, the main things are wake up in the morning and I will read um, something to fill my soul. So it's different for different people. For me, it's the Bible. I will read that, and that just helps me recalibrate in keeping God big and all
Mhm.
my little problems small, right? And so it's just a good way to start my day where I'm filled up and I'm reminded that He's powerful, He's in control, and I'm held by someone who's capable of taking care of all these things. And then it just kind of puts things in perspective because you can easily dwell on an issue and it becomes magnified. And so that
Mhm.
kind of puts the magnifying in the right place for me. And then when it's nicer, I'll also get out and exercise right away. But right now, 5 in the morning, it's dark.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I'm like, I'm not going outside.
Right.
But if it was summer, I would go outside.
Mhm.
And then, while I'm outside, I typically will listen again to things that are more encouraging, inspirational music. Sometimes it's podcasts. Sometimes it's just silent because I have kids and stuff. So sometimes
Mhm.
I just need it to be quiet and I'm just going on a walk. And sometimes on my walk, I'll put on headphones also so that neighbors and things don't talk to me.
Oh my
So they don't, so then they think that I'm like busy.
Uh-huh. I
Because
love that.
it's like I just need my time.
Mhm.
So right now, obviously it's dark, so I don't go exercise right away. So then after I'm done doing my reading for my soul, then I will read for my development, my growth as a business owner or as a mom. Whatever I feel that I'm currently sucking at, I will get a book on that topic and I that will be my second reading. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
um and then so now it's a spiritual reading, it's growth reading, and then 9-ish o'clock when it's brighter, then I go for a walk. So then
Mhm.
my so that's kind of what my morning looks like. And
I
you'll
love
know what
that.
I'm struggling with depending on what I'm reading.
Right. Right. I
Wow.
hear that so much. Whenever there's like I'm still when I was in college, Twilight was that was
The thing.
the
That's the
thing.
vampire one, right?
Oh, yeah, and it's not even the best one. My favorite is the Vampire Diaries and the True Blood books and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So whenever those books are, like, on my desk, my husband's like, "Oh god, she needs
She needs
she's
her
reading.
time.
She needs her time," right. That's funny about the headphones too. When flying was a thing, I used to do that. Headphones on, nothing's in there, but it's like,
Nothing.
I can't
This is
get
not
rid
social
of.
hour.
No,
Yeah.
it's not. Well, I'd love to get to some of the questions because we have had a ton sent in, and then guys, feel free to start dropping them in the comments as well. I'll go first to the ones that were sent in ahead of time. This particular one was sent in by 8 different people, so we'll start
Oh
with
wow.
this one. What are your suggestions for getting beyond procrastinating?
Well, this one is like I think a human problem. We all we all struggle with it. It's boiled because I've tried. Here's the thing. I've tried all the little do this and do that and whatever. It's boiled down to one or two things for me. Do you really want to do it and do you really have to do it?
Mhm.
Because there are some things I'm putting it off. Well, also if you don't know how to do it or you don't know what to do. So it's
Right.
like there are some things I put off because I just don't want to do it. And if I don't have to do it, like if it's not necessary, if you can outsource it, if you can hire someone, if it's something around the house and maybe a different family member can take it on, give it to someone else to do. If it's something that you have to do, that it's just like you're the only person who can do it, then you go back to the discipline issue. Like you
Mhm.
need to discipline yourself to just say, this is what I need to do. This is when it needs to be done by. And this is how I'm going to incrementally break it down so it doesn't feel like so huge. And you just break it down into the smallest possible chunks, something so simply ridiculous that it would just be like, why didn't I just insert? easy activity, right?
Right.
Like something like a super messy kitchen. And then you're like, I have to clean this big massive kitchen. Well, it's like, well, just break it down really small. Like, what can we do first? Okay, let's just wipe the counter off. Let's just stack the plates by size. And like,
Mhm.
just do the one thing and then walk away, stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like, and I think that's with work too. Figure out if you need to be the one to do it, just break it up into small chunks. That has helped. And then
Mhm.
the other thing is sometimes it's not like a big enough why, I guess. Like, you don't really have to do it. Like, you don't
Mhm.
really need another job. And so you're putting off filling out the applications, or,
Right.
you know what I mean? But if you desperately needed it, you have no idea when this 30 days runs out, how you're going to feed your family, you're going to get it done. Like, it's just going to happen. So sometimes it's like, maybe you don't really want to do it. So just get rid of it. It doesn't have to be done. And if it's client work, again, maybe you do have to do it. So
Right.
just break it down into really, really small incremental things, and just get it done, or someone else can help. But the other thing that I feel like procrastination comes is when I don't have clarity. Like,
Yes.
I'm not really sure, like, what am I supposed to be doing, or like, what's first, second, third? I don't know. And so for that, if it's a client assigned it to me and I've done the best I can to try to figure it out and I really can't, I just have to go to them and say, I'm just not clear on what's priority, what's first, second, third. And that usually helps. In business, it's maybe going to a coach. Um, in home life, it's, maybe the whole family or whatever think tank. Like,
Right.
what do we need to do here? And so everything is doable with, what does it say, with God and Google.
Right. Oh my god, I'm
Yeah,
stealing that too.
yeah. You can figure it out, but it's
Uh-huh.
just, get clear
Mhm.
on those three things. Do I want to do it? Do I have to do it? Do I need to do it? And do I have clarity about it? If you can get all those things kind of
Mhm.
ironed out, I think procrastination goes away. And then there's always the physical element. Sometimes you're procrastinating because your body's just trying to tell you something, like, look, we're tired. Like, we don't need anything else to do. So
Mhm.
it's a checklist for me. I go through all those things, like, and sometimes I'm putting something off because, yeah, I'm tired. So I just take a little nap and then I get back to it. I'm like, this
Exactly.
isn't too bad. This isn't too bad. Yeah,
Do you ever outsource? Do you find that sometimes you'll think, "Okay, I know it needs to be done now that I have the clarity after I've asked. Now I'm realizing this is not me." Like, do you ever with your like, still managing it, I guess, for your clients or
I
owning
do.
it, but outsourcing? Yeah.
I do. I do. Typically writing, I just don't have a lot of confidence in my writing. And so even my own podcast, like show notes, I'm like, if someone else can do it, that'd be great.
That's hard. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I definitely outsource things. And
Mhm.
some people are just really gifted at things that I'm not. And
Mhm.
I want to share the love and, let them use their gift and share their gift with the world. And so I pass it on. Like, why try to do everything if someone else could be lit up by doing it for you? So,
Mhm. Totally. That leads to one of the questions from our Facebook users. Working as a virtual assistant, what are the must have tools, equipment, or apps that you use to be successful? They love working from home and are much more productive, but in their current position, they're in the office 4 days and home 1 day.
yeah. And I guess that depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? If it's being successful with managing your time, it really can be as simple as your timer on your phone and just saying, okay, for 25 minutes, I'm going to do X activity. You set your
Mhm.
timer, and when the timer beeps, you stop. Because I find that if I say I'm going to go in my client's inbox and I'm managing the inbox, I could easily do that for hours. But if I say I have 30 minutes
Mhm.
and I'm going to manage this inbox, magically, I can get it done in 30 minutes. But if I give myself too much freedom, you kind of let it drag on. So if it's that kind of thing, I would say even something as simple as your phone timer. If
Mhm.
it's scheduling, I love Calendly for scheduling things. And they have it now to when someone schedules with you, you can get a text message. The person can get a
Yeah.
text message, it sends reminders, it does all the things, and you can connect it with your Zoom and automatically does a Zoom link. So that's helpful if you're if what you're trying to accomplish is a more automated scheduling. So that's a tool that I love. It just kind of depends like what specifically we're trying to accomplish, but with contracts and things like that, uh, having a place to keep all your contracts and have them signed officially, I love. I used a Dipsado for years, but when you're first starting out, it might be a little tricky setting up. So Honeybooks is another one that I've
Yeah.
really enjoyed using. Um, but and then good old fashioned pen and paper.
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
know. I'm like, it's so funny because as a digital marketer, everyone's like, what's the latest? Like, what note-taking apps? I'm like, first of all, my Evernote is a hot mess. I will never let anyone look at that. And then I have two massive notebooks here. And my notebook has to be like, I love the big
The
spiral.
big, me too,
Yes.
me too.
Like,
It's like,
yes, I need it out. And all these other ones are so little and pretty, but I'm like, I can't do that. No.
I think somebody asked if I could repeat the procrastination checklist I see over
Yes.
here. And yeah, so it was kind of on the fly, but I believe I said, do you want to do it? Do you have to do it? Do you need to do it? Do you have clarity about it?
Want to, have to, need to, have clarity. I'll put this in the recap email for you guys too.
Yeah.
Love that. And then I will do a shameless plug, you guys. You know, if you are looking for a tool to use to manage a specific executive and or more than one executive, you can always use Base. And we also have, I don't think Jeremy, our head of product, will mind me teasing this, but we have a calendar feature that is coming out soon. So hopefully
Yes.
we will have more updates on that too.
I want to hear about that. That's gonna be exciting.
I'm so excited. Yeah, I'll send you when we do our base live on it. I'll be sure to send you all the details. We have more questions. Make sure you drop them in the chat, guys, and I'll get to these ones sent ahead of time as well. Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was saying someone added, and do you know how to do it? And that goes with the do you have clarity about it? Because if you don't have clarity, you probably don't know how to do it. But yeah, do you know how to do it? That's really important. Because if you don't know how to do it, it will that will definitely get you hung up. Yeah.
And you don't want to set yourself up for failure either.
Yeah, exactly.
This next question is the full question was, I'm back to work this week with my 4-month-old baby. I'm home with her while working. What are your best tips for getting back to your executives quickly while also taking care of your new baby? This is a tough one.
That is so tough. And it can be so easy to give tips based on like either what worked for me or like whatever cool, awesome thing is going on right now. But I think individually, you have to just make decision out of principle, like be principled about your decision. So I know, for example, some moms who chose to breastfeed, they were principled about, if I'm breastfeeding, I'm not going to be on my phone, I'm not going to be doing anything else, because for them that was really important to them to feel like like if you're having a meal with somebody, you're not like on your phone, typically
right.
you're engaging with them, and for them it was a way to connect with their child and be fully present. But if for you don't feel like you don't feel like you're taking away from the experience, then I would say, while the baby's nursing and they're occupied, why not go ahead and respond your Slack or whatever, because the baby's comfortable and occupied. And so you can get back to the executive quickly and the baby's comfortable. But it's one of those things like, decide what your principles are going to be and make your decision from a place of principles instead of, because everybody's situation is just so different. So I think it's just, when you have a new baby, your priority is to keep the baby healthy and alive. But really, actually, let me backtrack. The first priority is to make sure that you're healthy and that you're okay and that you have the energy that you need. And then the baby, and then the executive. right? And I think the better you take care of number one, everyone else will get taken care of. So, back to the principle, like take care of yourself, get 4 month old. I used to hate when people be like, get enough sleep. It's like, it's not a thing.
With the sleep regression, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, they've been sleeping 7 hours a night, and then 4 month hits, and you're like, who is this monster baby? I mean, I love my children, but I can call them that.
Yes. So I don't even want to be like
Right.
ridiculous and be like, get enough sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's maybe if your executive isn't using something easy um, to communicate, maybe get them to get on something easier that you can almost chat instead of
Mm-hmm.
full on email or presentation or something like that. And do the best. I love this book. I was going to say, do the best to communicate your needs and hear their expectations, because you might be surprised you're putting a bigger expectation on yourself than they are. Sometimes if you just hear what they're actually requiring, you're like, okay, I could pull that off. But one book that I always recommend called Crucial Conversations,
Okay.
it gives a lot of tips on, it's not like a negotiation book at all, but it's just how to communicate when you're asking something important, like how to make it so that you're heard. And I think that's because a lot of times I think we don't feel heard or seen, and that will
Mhm.
help also making that communication really clear so that you're heard and that your needs are met. But it's like a hard question to answer given the age of the child. If it was like
Mhm.
toddlers where you can say, okay, let's do this activity, whatever. But
Right.
with the baby, it's like you got to meet the baby's needs. So if you're comfortable holding the baby while you work, I say do it.
100% agree. My kids
Yeah.
are 20 months apart, and with my first, I thought, and this is when I was consulting and had a bunch of clients, and I had such a hard time because I was not putting myself first. I was just getting so stressed. I was thinking I had to meet my clients' demands. And then someone told me similar advice for my second. They said, just say, hey, right now, this is the baby's routine. It could change next week, but I'm not checked like the witching hour, which it still is, that like after
Yeah.
school, 4 p.m. to
Yeah.
6 p.m. I would just say, I'm not available at those times. Like
Yeah.
I cannot, and it
Yeah.
was more about when I wasn't checking my
Mm-hmm.
Slack or email. And so they knew. But yeah, that's great advice. You have to take care of yourself first. That's the most
Mm-hmm.
important thing.
Yeah.
Okay, next question we have on here. Do you find that your employer is or clients are understanding of you wanting to be both an assistant and a teacher for your children? And this may be different. I think they were speaking from the executive assistant perspective, and maybe if you were working for an organization in homeschooling, but I think it still pertains with virtual
Yeah.
learning as well.
Yeah. And I'm not sure how that would work if I was like an employee versus I'm contracting with,
Mm-hmm.
a company. But I do know, like I said, before I sign contracts or any money sent or anything like that, we have a conversation about the like what they need. And typically, what I do in my private life never needs to come up. They
Right.
don't need to know that I have children. They need to know, can I get this done and make their company run smoothly, efficiently, and serve their clients well? And if I can deliver it, I don't really need to bring up the fact that I'm teaching my children or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I need to be live like this for something, and they say you have to be live doing something certain days of the week, if my children already had an activity, I would just let them know, oh, we typically have this at that time. Is that flexible? And then we work around it. Or I can quickly go through my mind and go, my activity is actually flexible. So I don't even need to bring it up. I'll just switch
Right.
mine. So thankfully, I have not had anybody have any pushback about having children or having both roles. I have had people ask how I manage my time because they're like, well, I have kids and I'm barely hanging on to my business.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
well, what are you doing? And so, but it was never a disqualifying factor.
Hmm. That's great.
Yeah.
What advice can you give an assistant who wants to become a VA or an entrepreneur to make extra money but isn't quite sure where to start?
I would say um, start reaching out to, if you know any business owners, start reaching out in your network of people you know and just say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Is there, well, you might want to also know, like, what are you even interested in helping people with, but just
Mhm.
say, hey, do you need help creating social media graphics to promote your business, or do you need help with your inbox, or do you have someone responding to your customers within 24 hours? I'd love to help with that. Like, know what you want to do so that you have something to present, business owners, also there are a lot of Facebook groups that have virtual job postings. Let me see, like Digital Nomad. There's a Facebook group. There's like virtual assistant savvies, different things like that. And you just go in there and you could just start applying. And a lot of people that post in some of those groups, their rates, they don't mind taking someone entry level. And so you can say, hey, I'm just, well, you don't have to tell me you're getting started, but like if they ask how experienced are you, just be honest and say, I'd love to have the experience. But that's how I would start. Set up a Facebook page. If you, instead of getting like a whole website, you can set up a free Facebook page and just,
That's
you
great
know,
advice.
and put what you want to offer, how they can contact you, all that basic information that's on a website. You can do that for free and start, leading people to you that way. But a lot of it is just going to be word of mouth initially,
Hmm.
people telling them to let people they know, and then get connected in the virtual assistant networks because they're huge. There's a lot of help.
The Facebook page that's such great advice. That was another question we had someone drop in. Do I need a website?
No.
Or yeah, because that's so hard. I mean, if you don't have, well, they're expensive, if they can get
Yeah.
quite expensive, and then
Hmm.
the upkeep is a whole other thing. So would you recommend
Yeah.
like LinkedIn pages as well?
Absolutely. That's another way to display what you do, what you want to do, what you're looking to get hired for, Facebook page or LinkedIn. And both of them are free. You certainly
Mhm.
can pay to make it more robust, but
Yeah.
both of them are free to get started.
Mhm.
Now as you grow, if you want to do more, but let me tell you, there are some service providers, VAs and things that have made six figures and did not have a website.
Yeah.
It's the money is not because you have a website. People, so to get started, free Facebook page, LinkedIn profile, optimize it, use quality words and SEO,
Right.
friendly terms and things like that. Have a great picture, something clear, nothing fuzzy, preferably just you, not with
Yeah.
a pet or a child or anything. But yeah, it's simple to get started. Um, I'm not going to say it's easy because you have to put in the time and things like that
Mhm.
to get it to grow, but it's really simple.
And it's hard too. I found this when I was consulting that I didn't think this would be hard, but sending that initial email to my network saying, hey, here's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so, and you mentioned this too, make sure you guys send the shameless promotion. That's the
Yeah.
only way you'll really get it out there.
Yeah. I highly recommend though, when you're reaching out to your network, s- you know, try sending it to the people who you've talked to in the last week first,
Great
you know,
advice. Mhm.
and then kind of go from there. If you haven't talked to someone in a month, I suggest you actually don't mention it yet, but do reach out and
Mhm.
say, hey, so and so, it's been a while. A month isn't really a while, but however long your standard of a while is. And
Mhm.
just say, hey, it's been a while, just checking in. How are you doing? No rush. I just wanted to say hello, and send that to a few people and just genuinely see how they're doing, right? Because you'd hate to send this whole promotional thing to someone you haven't talked to in 3 months. Turns out their mother died, their daughter is sick, they've
Mhm.
lost their job, and it's just like, you know
Like, really? Now you're wanting me to get you work?
Yeah, it's like, no,
Yeah.
no. So I would say if you haven't talked to someone in a while, it's better to just genuinely reach out and see how they are doing first
Mhm.
and reconnect because this whole, you know what, my growth has, I can say a good chunk of it has simply been with relationships
Yeah.
because I'm not a brilliant marketer. I don't know all the things.
I
I
don't
don't pay
believe
for
that.
yeah. I know. I don't pay for ads. Like I don't you know what I mean? But the
Yeah.
people that you genuinely care about, you invest in and you pay attention to their lives. You just be human and to show people some care those and then you can let them know, yeah, this is what I'm doing, this is what I have going on. If you hear of anything, please refer me or whatever. People will do that. People want to see you succeed, and then the people who don't, you'll be able to sift them out too. But most people who care about you and who are in your network, they want to see you succeed, so definitely let them know. But if you haven't talked to them in a while, I think it's better to genuinely just reach out just for the sake of seeing how they're doing.
Mhm. Do you
Yeah,
have a network that you lean on a frequent basis, that you reach out to bounce ideas off of, or just constantly connect with on a regular basis?
absolutely. I have any a lot of the courses I've taken have a Facebook group for the course, and typically they're very engaging, very supportive,
Mhm.
and so there's that. And then I pay for memberships where we're constantly challenging each other to be better, or we check it like, okay, this week or this month, everybody, we're working on our websites.
Mhm.
Hey, you have a broken link here. Oh, you could do this better. Like, so
Oh,
we're
great.
collectively growing. So there's that. And then I have small peer mastermind that I also have where we're pushing each other like, hey, you're not helping anybody by playing small, that kind of
Right.
thing. And so that's that. And even non-work related, just having like-minded women who just are cheering me on in life, because if life is falling apart, it's really hard to keep business going. So I think non-business related support groups are also just as important. So I have all those.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such great advice. We encourage you guys to do this too, watching, drop on your LinkedIn in the chat or in posts within the group if you want to connect on that professional level, or, you can build your own Facebook community. If you
Yeah.
want something that's a little more on the human level,
Yeah.
start doing that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I did too. I started my Facebook group. It's called I hope you don't mind if I plug, but it's called
Plug it
Optimize to
all.
Scale. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
called Optimize to Scale, which is the
Mhm.
same name of as my podcast. And that group, it's kind of there, just supporting each other, dropping your link when you have an event, people show up, or we just all help each other. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Women
so
supporting
there's that.
women. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, this has been an absolute pleasure. I always love when I can snag you and talk to you. This has been so amazing.
Well, thank
Uh,
you.
I will be sure for everyone to put all of the tips that Jacqueline talked about today, and I will drop in your Facebook group, podcast, website. Even though you don't need a website, but she does have a beautiful website. And what you said about not being a marketer is not true. Your website is stunning. I love it so
Oh,
much.
thank you. Thank you.
And if you guys have any other questions, you can continue to drop them here in the chat, and I can ask Jacqueline afterwards and send them in that follow-up email. But
Yeah,
thank you so much, and hopefully we can host you again soon. This has been great.
that'd be great. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks.